Howdy, folks. Windy City Thetan Watch. We're in the studio tonight. Hopefully, some of you are coming over from the premiere that we just had. So, if you've watched the premiere, definitely interested in, what are your comments? What do you think about it? We are going to kind of go through it again, and I'm going to stop it, and we're going to have more hopefully, we'll have more conversation about some of these elements that are going on here. Now, before I get started, I do want to share with you why I actually created that video. The other day, something came up in my YouTube feed, and it was very, very funny. It was Dax Shepard basically trying to not interview, do a casting call for his wife, and he was just being a non-husband in this whole process. It was very, very funny, but very late in the video, somebody who we know as a Scientologist shows up. And I thought, wait a second, how close is Dax Shepard to Scientology? So that's what kind of made me start thinking. And then I did this search and I found that, wow, he did this interview with Erica Christensen. By the way, she's an actress and a cyclist. She's married a cyclist. He's a fairly famous bicyclist. So, but what I want to do is show you why I actually did this video. So, oh, darn it.
So have you Slate? Say your name, please.
Are you kidding? You want me to actually say my name? You wrote
I think
the
this
role
is actually
for me,
very
honey.
funny.
I'm your wife.
Just Slate your name to this camera, please.
And you're serious.
Ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kristen Bell.
Great. So the character of Karen and John are married, so they have a certain, ma'am?
Yeah.
They have a certain familiarity.
Right.
So
Act like your wife.
that's great. That's
think I can
exactly
do
what
it.
we're looking for. And action.
So I didn't know what you were doing. You were doing like a thing with your,
I was trying to be respectful, but
by not saying action?
action!
What are you wearing?
That's great. To me, it sounds like Karen already knows what he's wearing. So what I would love you to do is pretend that you actually have never seen this type of garment.
Did I
She's
not
not
get
afraid
the
of all
part?
things foreign.
Because you told me you wrote the part for me. But if you didn't, that's fine. Just be honest and say, I want to review other actresses. But this is insane. I mean, you realize this is insane, right?
Hey, my guy's just auditioning a
Honey.
girl for the
Oh,
role
that's
of
amazing.
Karen.
I'm like,
He
Michael,
plays
I know who you are. We're
Francis
friends. What are you
Llewellyn
doing?
Poncherello. Would you want to read with her?
yeah, I'll read.
Okay,
Let's do
great,
it.
great.
All
So you would be more comfortable if we started with the slate?
I
All right. Again, you can watch this video, and I'll post it in the. You know what? Just for fun, I don't know. Can I post it here? I don't know how this really works. Okay, you can watch that video anytime you want to. But again, when I saw Michael Pena show up, I know Michael Pena is a Scientologist, and it's like, I wonder if Dax knows other Scientologists. And I started going down the rabbit hole of doing a bunch of searches, and we show up on Erica Christensen, and there was a podcast that they had done many moons ago. And the Erica Christensen, you basically, if you watched the premiere, but by the way, we're going to go over the premiere again. Sorry about that. I'm going to go ahead and take that off. If you watched the premiere, you saw that there was a podcast, and he makes some interesting arguments. He talks about being defending. He talks about defending Scientology, and here are some of the things like when somebody comes at me and says they're anti-Scientology and blah 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 blah. It's very, very interesting to see how fake is the wrong term. How fraudulent or deceptive his responses were. So if you'll all bear with me, we're going to stop the video many times, but we're going to go ahead and rewatch the video that we saw earlier. Well, you may or may not have seen it. but we're going to rewatch the video, and I'm going to put more commentary in it. And I saw that Serge was in the premiere. Maybe Serge is here. Howdy, Kenny. Great to see you. And we're just going to try to figure out, does Dax have valid points or not in regards to what's going on here? So let me pull up this. I'm gonna scan through a little bit. Basically, I do an intro, and then very quickly, I'm going to cut to a clip where Dax is talking about his friends who are Scientologists, right?
Scientologists.
Almost unilaterally, all the Scientologists I know, very happy, pretty damn healthy, pretty productive, pretty responsible, great communicators. So when I can get bogged down in like, you know, the history of L. Ron Hubbard and certain things like this, or I kind of just go like, fuck, man, I know 12 of them, they're super duper happy and they're doing their thing, and I can just look at the result.
So his thinking is that the subset of Scientologists he knows, by the way, what kind of Scientologist is Dax Shepard going to know, right? Celebrities only. And do we think that celebrities, except for Leah Remini, who asked about David Miscavige's wife, do we think that celebrities are the people who are washing toilet bowls with toothbrushes? Do we think that they're the ones that are being on the RPF? For the most part, no. These people are people who are rather successful. Scientology will claim that it's because of Scientology. I'll say it's in spite of Scientology, that these were people that are talented in their own right, did not need Scientology to come along and help them out, but you know, they believe that they've gotten some success off of there. So this is something that I want people to say, that just because you know some Scientologists that are successful and good communicators, by the way, I'll question the good communicators as well on this process. Don't fall into the trick that, or the perception that Scientology is okay, right? These people don't go through Scientology the same way as a staff member, as a public member, as a Sea Org member does. Yeah, absolutely, right? Oh, sorry, I forget. I get to bring you guys up on screen. Kind of go through here. Janelle, thanks for being here. Jessica, thank you for coming in. Adam, always good to see you. And hey, Kenny, great. Thanks for stopping by. So again, because you know some celebrity Scientologists, my expectation is you don't know many Scientologists and you don't know what Scientology is about.
Results of this thing, and I can say whether or not I agree with it, it's totally working for you guys. We have a lot of mutual friends where I'm like, yeah, they're some of my favorite people and they're happy as hell.
In this podcast, Dax tries to rationalize many. Wait, tick the further ado.
Hello, welcome to the arm.
And Eric, hit the like button as well. And tick.
I do want to stop here. If you're not subscribed, please do. It costs nothing to subscribe. And if you want to, please go ahead and share the video.
The subscribe button.
Hello, welcome to the Armchair Expert. This is Dax Shepard, your host. I'm joined with Monica, your co-host.
Hello.
And before we get into this episode, which is with my ever beautiful, talented TV sister, Erica Christensen.
Now, these two were in a show for about 6 years. The show is called Parenthood. And actually, I think Kristen Bell is it as well. And Kristen Bell might be Dax's brother in that show.
Well, before we get into Scientology, because you and I have had many great conversations over the years about it, because we worked together for 6 years and I like talking about that kind of stuff. And you are very open about it.
I love that you're curious about deeper things. Like, what do people actually believe? Not just like,
yes,
what are you driving?
And I think it'd be useful for me to give, because I can take either side of the argument.
By the way, I'm a fan of people who want to try to get enough understanding. And one of the things that I used to like to do when I was debating in high school or debating in college is I would get you to agree to my side, and then I would take your side and get you to agree back the other direction. It's an enjoyable conversation. You know, there are people out there, if you think about people like Selfless Self, he would just love doing this, right? I'll take either side of the argument. We'll have discussion, see who wins, if there's such thing as winning. It's the old meme of, oh wait, honey, I found something broke on the internet. Let me fix it real quick. So we're going to say that, great, I applaud you for trying to be knowledgeable about the other side. Quite honestly, as an activist against Scientology, I try to be educated about what Scientology is and what it isn't.
Which I'm a fan of doing. If I'm talking to
Great.
people who are super critical of Scientology, these are the things I'll point out. You're going to definitely correct me, but I'm just going to go against the common perception of some things.
Okay.
But let's just say I'm talking with somebody and that person says, oh, they believe in aliens. Okay. And then they say, oh, and they got to pay all this money to be in the religion.
Mm-hmm.
And then I point out, okay, let's say they believe in aliens. I find aliens to be, at least scientifically speaking, a lot more plausible than a man in the sky that has a.
Yeah, you're 100% correct, Nora. And so many other, like he mentions that he's got 12, about 12 friends. We saw in the opening video when he does the spoof of interviewing his wife for a part in a play that Michael Pena comes in and he's going to read for the part of Dax Shepard, right? So, there's an element of me that says he is just being played by these Scientologists, because again, if you're a celebrity, and Nora, you were in the Celebrity Center, you served at the post of Celebrity Center. So you understand what goes on with these people, that for the most part, they have an elevated, different life than most Scientologists. That's my expectation. It's what I keep on hearing as we talk about this process. And thank you. I do think that this is somebody, I do think that he is being safe pointed, just like Nora suggested.
Beard who had a son who sent the son down to planet Earth only to be killed to come back up to him, yet there's still 3 of them. There's those.
Now, something I want to say that you all know, well, most of you know, I'm an ordained minister. I've had beliefs in some of these mainstream religions. I'm going to say he's a little bit glib here, just like he was glib in regards to everything else. But he's kind of taking scientific methodology and the idea that, okay, this is a challenging story to understand in most situations. So aliens, scientifically speaking, much more reasonable, or you could come to that conclusion in this process. So he's going to kind of talk through this. Now, again, I don't like the argument, and I think it's false in regards to what's going on, because he feels like it's a normative story in regards to how Scientology comes about.
Those 2 and the Holy Ghost, that isn't more plausible than aliens. So just if the genesis of both religions.
I'll pause this a little bit. It went by a little bit fast in the video, but this is basically just the story. And on the left-hand side, you're seeing Reckless Ben's video of, he's basically going through I think it's the South Park video that they're showing on there as well. So I'm going to get a copyright strike from 14 different people in this process.
You can't say one's crazier just by its concept, even if you believe there's aliens. Again, this is where you'll probably go, we don't believe in aliens. But even if you do or don't, let's just say you do for the sake of this.
Oh, sure. Okay, good. I think I do.
Okay, great.
I think it's pretty plausible. Like the fact that we would be completely alone in this universe.
Well, there's billions and billions of stars just within our cluster, and we're we're in a cluster of galaxies that are a cluster of cluster of cluster. It's the
universe is infinite.
Yeah. So from the get-go, it's not more preposterous than any of our main religions, Judeo-Christian or Islam. And then money, you got to pay a lot of money to.
Okay. Yes, I tried to put some quality into this video, and I've always liked that stupid gopher turning around looking at everybody. Yeah, religion is wrong. Philosophy would be the closest that you could possibly say, in my opinion, right? That there's a philosophy that is going on there. But this idea, and I can't remember if we heard it already or if we're about to hear it, but many Scientologists say they do their religion. They don't say they do their religion. They say they do the thing. They don't go to church. They don't pray to. They don't religious. It's an action. It's not a thought or a belief process. And again, I'm taking some liberties here. You all know I'm not a Scientologist. I've never been in Scientology. Sorry, I'm a terrible person. I'm reading this after it comes up. Yeah. And I do think that there's a great deal of shielding, like anything that's going on there. And, Serge coming back, And I'll even say that it doesn't even have to be an American-bred God, right? That we know that there have been these fanciful cultic leaders across the globe over time. Yeah, we're expanding by leaps and bounds all the time, right? And quite honestly, if you're watching any of the activists or the demonstrators out there, it's obvious Scientology is shrinking and consolidating. We are seeing new names, we are seeing new faces, but they're people that are on rotation. So it's the shell game, right? So they just keep on moving these people from organization to organization. And yeah, it's 100% it's extremist religion. And I've made some statements that I know people won't like, but it was from the old West Wing show. And in the West Wing show, right after 9/11, they talked about Abraham and the two children, Isaac and Abraham, and that if you thought about extremism, right, they used the jihad word. I think that was who we thought it was. If you use that word, they are to Islam like the coup is to Christianity, right? It's extremist. And I will tell you, one thing that I've always said well before I knew anything about Scientology, extreme anything is really, really dangerous, right? Middle of the road is where the world, in my opinion, and you can do whatever you'd like, but in my opinion, middle of the road is where we all believe. Yes. And he is a convicted felon. Many of his top brass were convicted felons. He threw his wife under the bus, and she becomes a convicted felon so that he doesn't have to suffer with Operation Snow White issues, right? But then there's the money, right?
To go through the ranks. Well, to that I say my grandparents were Baptists, and they were expected to and did give 10% of their income to the church.
Yeah.
One of the 5 pillars of Islam is donations. So there is generally a financial commitment to any major.
All right. We've got Nora and we've got Serge here. We've got Patrick here. What's the expected amount of money that you're supposed to give to Scientology? My expectation is all of it, right? That it's closer to 100% tithing. So this idea that, all religions ask for money. Well, yeah, 10%, right? A tenth, a tithe. Tithe is the word tenth, right? It makes perfectly good sense that, yes, there are these modicums of monies that you would donate to your church. Scientology does not stand by the 10%. It's everything except what you need to put a roof over your head and food in your stomach. And quite honestly, we don't really care that you have food in your stomach, and we don't really care that you have clothing on your back. So again, I just hate the argument that he's making on this idea that, all religions charge. They don't charge, but they have a financial obligation, right?
Religion. So in that, there's nothing really different. And then third, there are people there that they'll say slaves that work for nothing to blah, blah, blah. And I'll say, how much are the choir boys getting? How much are the guys who carry the stuff in the Catholic procession? Like
this one really pissed me off when I heard it on the original broadcast. Remember, this is a podcast that he's done. It's a couple of years old on this process. But the idea that you equate, the choir boys, right? How much do they get paid? They don't get paid anything. Well, let's be honest. Their job is to come 1 or 2 hours a week to practice, and then they perform for 15 minutes on a Sunday, right? right? And listen, different religions, slightly different, but for the most part, that's a fairly accurate portrayal of what goes on. These, if you think about Scientology, the body routers that are out there, they're the janitors for the organization, right? The Leah Remini story, which, by the way, Leah Remini is the most high-profile person that had to clean a bathroom with a toothbrush. Many people in Scientology have had to clean a bathroom with a toothbrush. Lara talking about what she had to do at the ranch, right? At the Int Ranch, or the children's farm out there in Hemet, California. So this idea that, oh, all religions have some form of work or servitude. Yeah, that servitude is extremely voluntary. If I think about it, nobody asks you to do something. Right. Kelly, thank you so much. Nobody in Scientology, if you're told to do something, it's not a question, it's not an ask, it's a command. And not doing so is going to get you in trouble. It's going to put you in ethics, or it's going to, you're not even supposed to be able to make a harumph type sound, right? So when you're told to do something and you say, oh man, and even if you do that, the oh man is out ethics. You're going to get in trouble for that. So the idea that, oh, these people that play in the choir, they're just the same as the people that are digging the graves and the people that are cleaning Tom Cruise's house and washing his boat and keeping his yacht clean in that situation. So the false, or the fallacy of this comparison, was very, very disturbing to me in this space. Yeah, and again, I just picked some quick elements that, I think that they mentally abuse you, they beat you down, they wear you down, and again, they beat you down physically, but they also beat you down mentally. They wear you down in these situations, and you're going to do work there, right? Scientology doesn't hire construction workers. Scientology doesn't hire painters. They don't hire ditch diggers, right? The staff, we've got all this manpower and human power to do it. They're the ones that are going to do this work, right?
Service to your church is also very, very, very normal. And then to your point, which I think we should get out from the get-go, and I'm glad you said it, is you have your take on Scientology. You're not speaking for Scientology. You're not saying what everyone's relationship with it.
Surely.
I too am in a group that people think is a cult, which is AA. And there are as many different people that you know at your crowded bar.
Now, I could have put this here, and I could have put this later on. They're going to talk about you don't take drugs, because this conversation is about a little bit about alcohol and a little bit about drugs, right? As he's going through this, and there are several elements, right? One of the quotes from L. Ron Hubbard, right? It has never been known in chemistry or medicine exactly how or why painkillers such as aspirin worked. Such compositions are derived by accidental discoveries, and so depresses pain. Right. So the claim is we don't know how this works. I did one search on how does aspirin work, right? University of Chicago Medicine. Chicago researchers have shown that aspirin splits into two parts and affixes one part to the enzyme, permanently altering the chemical structure and blocking the reaction that produces the prostaglandins. And the prostaglandins are the elements that are going to either cause swelling or pain in this situation. So we know very, very well how medicines work, right? Did we know 100 years ago? Not as much. 200 years ago, we were rolling the dice. But we're pretty good about knowing how the heck medicine works. And even at the time that L. Ron Hubbard was writing this, we were fairly proficient at understanding how medicines worked, right?
Room. That's how many different kinds of people are in AA. So you could meet someone in AA who's a fucking lunatic, no question.
Sure.
And his interpretation of AA I might think is batshit crazy. And his, likewise of mine, he would think was crazy, right? So I don't think either of us will be speaking for either of our organizations at all, right?
Now, something here, right? So Dax is saying, I don't speak for all AA, Alcohol Anonymous people, and that Erica doesn't speak for all Scientologists, and you oftentimes hear in Scientology, it's true for it. Make Scientology whatever you want it to be, which is not what it is. If it's true for you, it's true, right? But the idea that it doesn't have to be the same for everybody, which is just an easy way of saying, make it up and make the religion fit what you want it to be, right?
With that said, what is also unique about you is there are, in my experience with Scientologists in LA, which I know probably a dozen.
Yeah.
There are people who found it, and there are people that were raised Scientologists.
Right.
And you were raised Scientologists, correct?
Right. It's funny because I like to really be specific about that too, because
she says she had
it's hard to raise someone as a Scientologist because it's something that you do. It's not something that you believe. And so my parents definitely are Scientologists, approached parenting from a Scientology viewpoint. I know that now as an adult. I can see that in the way that they approached me as a kid, and really trying to do what I'm doing now as a parent, which is trying to temper absolutely necessary discipline and rules and structure with fostering independent thought and freedom of personality. Just it has to be true for you. It can't, don't take anybody's word for anything ever, basically,
Right.
without being a cynic or without being
closed-minded,
some kind of paranoiac. Yeah, it's just what do you have if you don't have yourself? So that.
So I kind of want to pause it here, right there. Music Heals, thanks for coming in. If we think about what you said, just went through on this whole process, is that if it's true for you, and think for yourself, right? But you don't get to think for yourself, right? We know that, and I don't know if publics get it quite the same as a staff member or a Sea Org member, but you're going to get a piece of software put on your phone, and they're going to spy on you through that process. And you will be penalized for having independent thoughts. My expectation is that if you receive a text that is contrary to Scientology beliefs, you're in trouble, right? You don't even have to be the sender of that text in this process. So this idea that they're free to think, it's such a, you saw that we had the bounded choices. Yeah, you're free to do it, but there will be a penalty. So you get to choose, but choose your penalty. Yeah, if you do choose, you will incur the penalty.
And then various things like, drinking and drugs and stuff like that. We basically think it's counterproductive.
Right.
If you get down to it.
And again, I'll point out my understanding of it, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but drugs for sure that's just off the table for Scientologists, right?
Yeah.
Drinking is allowed, and right.
Absolutely.
Scientologists drink, but they generally do not do drugs, and are strongly urged never to do drugs.
Yes.
This is just me, that I'm not saying that alcohol is worse or better than drugs, or drugs is worse or better than, but it's hard for me to understand that you're worried about that as drugs, you're going to lose lucidity, but alcohol's okay. Now, I know that while you can take alcohol, you can't take alcohol within 24 hours of going on to be serviceable or going into an audit. You can't do that at that point. Hey, Dave, how are you doing? And Amy, you're 100% right. This is something that doesn't come up in this conversation so much, but I had the video earlier this week when you look at the way to happiness, and it talks about loving your children, giving them affection. It's like, you don't even believe they're children. You think they're adults. So why in the world would you love them, right? Yeah, and I can't remember. I don't remember. I know that he was an addict and that he was in AA. I don't know if he was also in NA. So I don't know. I know that there was a point in time where he and his wife's marriage were on the rocks, and it was because of this in that situation. Howdy Breeze Report. Thanks for coming in. All right. And that's the only reason why I'm saying that, hey, I put this up here, and I'm not saying that alcohol is bad. I'm just saying that it's very hard for you to argue against against drugs and for alcohol.
Yes.
Because it as the action of Scientology, when you are picking apart the chronology of your life, and it's
your chronology of this life and every past life, right? Yeah, Serge, I do understand that he was definitely in AA, but I don't know if he also had a drug addiction problem or not. And yeah, I do think that alcohol is a drug, right? Oops. Yeah. And again, to me, this video was just full of false comparisons and the idea of the uh, the idea that he was able to defend so many of this point. So he's incredibly knowledgeable about it. And again, many of us protesters and activists are knowledgeable about it as well, and we were never ins. So I don't want to say that, oh, because I know so much about it, I must be a Scientologist. And by the way, I don't think I know a lot about it. I know enough to make me effective on the streets. And by the way, there's a Narcotics Anonymous and there's a Narcanon. Narcanon, right, is the front company, the front group of Scientology, and it gets in trouble in many other countries. So yeah, there's definitely a problem with that. Now, Narcotics Anonymous is built after the Alcohol Anonymous or the 12. It's a typical 12 steps program. I do not know when it started though. We have a lot of people in the audience. They know this kind of stuff. That's a good point too, that allowed is going to be the term I'll say, right? But there's no way in the world that anybody in Scientology lets her take this interview, right? Or have this conversation unless he's safe pointed, right? You can't take an open conversation with somebody who might be PTS or SP, right? Yeah, this would be interesting as well. It's so easy to find so many of these stories. Like I said, at the beginning of this, you saw that I really got into this because I thought there was a funny little skit that Dax and his wife Kristen had done. And when Michael Pena showed up, I said, "Oh, I didn't know he knew Michael Pena." And then I did my searching. And Kelly, thank you so much. Now we know. Yeah, I thank you for confirming basically what I just said, right? In there, but I hate the way I say things sometimes. I didn't mean that to sound derogatory. By the way, Serge, you have mail. I did create a compilation of the children, and I'd love for us to talk about that. Yeah, there are so many PR stunts. Right. We saw in Chicago this past week and the week before that they are trying to do these PR promotions. Most people think that it was because of the IIS over in England, at St. Hill Manor, that was what those were for. And, I felt good that I could be there and disrupt their ability to create the PR. Right.
Effects upon you, it really helps to have that lucidity.
Uh-huh.
And so it's almost, now I'm circling back to the other topic, but it's almost just selfish on my part.
Uh-huh.
Like I want to be able to remember everything.
Uh-huh.
I want to be smart.
You want to be.
When I heard this, Phil Jones was the one that always says, show me a clear and let's prove it, right? It's impossible to prove you're a clear. And the first thing is that you're not able to have perfect recall. And one of the first properties of being clear is you have perfect recall of not only this life, but all past lives, right? So why is she worried about drugs and alcohol? She's clear. She should be able to do this. And I actually don't know if she's clear. Maybe somebody could do a quick search to see how far she's gone into Scientology.
Be at your peak.
I do.
Right.
And I want to consider that I'm always just driving toward my best self.
Yes. You were homeschooled. Was that based on being Scientologist or being a child actor or a combination of both?
Being an actor.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a practical thing because I was spending so much time like in classes and auditions and work and all that stuff. So, but communication being just the key to solving any problem. That's I feel like that's where my parents really also succeeded in making themselves
Your parents
safe
did not
to talk
succeed.
to.
Yeah.
Do you care to share how the church is helping you? No, because the first rule about Scientology is don't talk about Scientology.
The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
Yeah.
So that when I did go and say I had my first beer,
Folks, I put it in text when we did the premiere. I have 100 of those questions, right? There are 100 times that I've seen somebody come out of Scientology, whether it's a staff member, whether it's a public, whether it's Sea Org, the idea that they will not communicate, right? We're hearing now that this Hollywood artist is telling us that Scientology is great because it tells us about communication. They will not communicate, right? That they communicate with who they want to communicate with, and they want to tell the story they want to tell. They do not want to have an actual conversation. And she goes through what a real conversation should be. We're going to see that in just a moment, right? And she has the analogy of when you have a ball, right? Only one person can throw the ball at a time and only one person can catch the ball at a time. And that's the way that a conversation should work. That is not the way that I have ever evidenced anybody in Scientology having a conversation. So most people that I see in conversation, they want to talk over me and they do not want to listen to what I have to say. They don't want to absorb any information that I'm going to give them in this situation.
I told them instead of going, I'm going to be in such deep shit. Like, I can't do that. And then driving and like really getting into the phenomena of just teenager dumb where everything they say is wrong, no matter what it is. And, and just like, it's so defensive. I never had to be so defensive because I was like, well, this happened.
Let's just say that you did take the path of either I'm going to lie about it or I'm going to be in trouble. So now your brain gets very busy going, okay, so I'm going to be in trouble. So I'm going to explain to them, well, Mike and Jenny also drink, right? And I'm the only person that doesn't drink, right? So now you're creating this entire chatter in your head, this fake argument that's going to ensue, and you're bolstering your side of the case, right? So now you're occupying your whole brain with your side of the case that's inevitably coming your way.
Yep.
Or you're going to lie to him, and now you're building like, well, did you drink tonight? No, because we went to Kathy's and
Just out of curiosity, I know we have a couple of former Scientologists in here. Would you lie to your parent? I know most of you didn't see your parents very often, but is lying something you would think about telling your parents or doing talking to another Scientologist and telling a fib, right, or a white lie about something you had done? I always felt that more often than not, whether or not you truly were ethical on that process, but you were always fearful of the idea of getting caught in a lie.
Kathy's mom is evangelical, and there's no booze in that. You like
both so exhausted.
You're completely off to the races, right? In either direction.
And you dig your heels in so hard when you know that, like when you're going, well, Mike and Jenny also drink it, So you can't own it. You can't be like, I'm not sure if that was the right thing to do if you are already on the defense.
Right. Yeah. It would be a defeat to admit error.
Exactly.
Right.
It's me against you right now, and I have to win this, which is always the case.
Right.
With like all of life, you know?
Yeah.
And they were never like, you need to go to church.
Welcome to Sunday service. We're going to give you a little exercise on control with a group process by the same title. All you have to do is follow the command. Shall we begin? Yeah. Sit in your chair. It's easy enough, isn't it? Sit in your chair. Very good. Sit in your chair. Very good. Sit in your chair. All right.
I don't know if any of you have seen this, but Reckless Ben just did an amazing series on this, and this is 10 or 12 years old. This is one of my intros used to have the Scientology with the word sucks lit up on the blue building there, and that was the Reckless Ben that did that. But my understanding was this was an actual church service, right? So this was what happens when you go to church in this scenario. Let me catch up on a couple of these. Kelly, I'm going to say that I think you always look at things from a very logical, balanced situation. I'd be surprised if this was what Dax was trying to do in this situation. And I'd be incredibly impressed if Scientology would let them sit down for this, if that was what they felt might be one of the outcomes of what was going on here. Yeah, absolutely. 4,000 milligrams and 5,000 milligrams is nice, and tell them to sit in the sauna for 5 hours. One of the things that you're not going to hear it in this video, but she talks about it because Dax said that she has 60 bottles of vitamins in her room all the time. That when you take that much niacin, you have to take other vitamins to kind of balance that off. So you just take a handful of vitamins all the time in regards to what's going on. Is this absolutely? Like that. Yep. Thanks, Dave. And yes, you are a brother from another mother. Thanks for joining us tonight. Patrick, are you saying that there was a script before they before they did it? So, all right, let's listen to the rest of the service here.
Sit in your chair. Are you sitting in your chair? Yes.
Yes.
Very good. Sit in your chair. That's right.
I'll jump you past it a little bit.
All right. All right. Go ahead. Okay. Where ahead?
Where
Very
ahead?
good. Where ahead? Good. Where ahead? Okay. And once more. Where ahead? Thank you. Where ahead?
This is awesome. Nobody disobeys that command.
Or anything like that too. It was like, this is what we're interested in. These are some of the things that we believe.
Oh, so you were not required. They didn't go
No.
like, oh, you're going in, you're taking a tour, you're
No, like
never.
No, it was like, we think this is a good idea.
Uh-huh.
Would you check it out? You know, and
Folks, I don't know when anybody in Scientology, right? So the idea that, hey, they do family disconnection, or they force you not to talk to your family anymore. And the Scientologists, they don't force us to do that. In reality, if they don't do it, they will be disconnected just the same, right? So this idea that you have a free choice not to disconnect from a family member. You've got a free choice not to say something negative about Scientology. You've got a free choice to read a book that's anti-Scientology or against the doctrines of Scientology. Yes, you do have a free choice to do that. But I assure you, if you do act upon that choice and it's the wrong direction, you will incur penalties, right?
always with the choice, and always I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, I was a kid. I was like, well, it sounds cool to me. Fine. And then when I was like 12, I started doing a bunch of the little.
And I know I took some liberties here, right? So in the orange, you pay to go to the principal who corrects your poor thinking, right? That's the easy one. So if you get a sec check, you kind of have to go in and say, oh, sorry, didn't mean to do that, didn't mean to do that, didn't mean to do that. And you paid to go apologize or try to fix your error, right? And then all the way up to family disconnection, which is, well, family disconnection is one of the most severe penalties. Quite honestly, the mental abuse that drives people to no longer be with us is the worst penalty that Scientology will impose upon people.
Introductory courses that they still have now, that a few hours maybe each.
And they're guided by some type of teacher.
They're not a teacher, it's a supervisor, because it's between you and the text. But if you get stuck not understanding something,
all you
the
need is 13
they're
grand.
right there, you know, they're going to help you
15,
out.
17
Success
grand
through communication, right? How to genuinely communicate one person to another, not just like talk at each other.
And there's a really simple thing about this too. It's been explained to me by
the way,
one of
I
our
do
mutual
agree with
friends,
this.
which yes, when Scientologists talk to
What
people,
we're talking about here.
they're committed to
Again.
listening, right? Isn't there's like a specific approach?
They might be committed to be listening, but they don't. No Scientologist has ever listened to me. No public has ever listened to me. No staff member has ever listened to me. They do not listen. Now, I will tell you 100% that this is a great form of active listening, and it's a great way. If you're in the business world, if you want to succeed in life, this is a great habit to have. No Scientologist I know has this habit.
Approach to listening.
Well, it's literally just that it's my turn to be receiving. If you are talking to me, I'm not supposed to be talking to you. I'm supposed to be listening to you.
What about planning the next thing you're going to say while you're talking to me?
No, that's not listening.
Oh, bummer.
Because whatever it is, you could give an example as if we're just playing ball, right? So I can't be throwing and catching at the same time. You've got the ball, you're throwing to me, and that means I'm catching.
Yeah.
And once I've received the ball, cool.
Which is also an acting exercise that they play with young kid actors. Okay, so then what physical steps, like when you I'm sure find yourself in situations where it's very chaotic and all this is happening, and what is it that you tell yourself to steady yourself? And
I actually want to bring this up. Let me see if I can bring that over here real quick. She's going to talk about the condition of doubt. And I'm going to say I want to share this tab instead, right? As we look through this, right? So this is, how do I make up my decision? Or when I'm in doubt, how do I weigh the pros and cons? How do I make this, right? And I just think it's hilarious, right? That inform oneself honestly of the actual intentions and activities of that group, project, organization without listening to unfair opinions or rumors. By the way, does anybody know what an unfair opinion or rumor is? And I know you've got a 20-second delay. Sorry about that. Anything that is anti-Scientology is unfair, and it's rumor. So you can make your decision based upon anything that is pro-Scientology, right? Examine the statistics of the individual, group, project, organization. I'm pretty sure my statistics are way higher than anybody in the Chicago organization. I have collected more propaganda than any one of them has passed out, right? Decide on the basis of greatest benefit for the greatest number of people and areas of your life, whether or not it should be attacked, harmed, prevented, or helped. To work this out, look over what would happen to every part of your life, your personal life, your husband, wife, family. You know, these are the 1 through 8 dimensions, not dimensions. Oh, darn it. But you don't consider those things. What is best for Scientology? And if it's not best for Scientology, we don't need to do that. I just think it's very funny that she's kind of going through this conditions of doubt story in this space. You know what? When I read this, it sounds to me that when you have to go to arbitration in Scientology, it's, you know, the game is called I Win. I think it was Big Daddy, the little kid, played a card game all the time, and the card game was called I Win. And it was just, no matter what the rules are, I win. No matter what the actions are, I win. So she's going to tell us about how she believes in the conditions of doubt.
And be able to focus.
It's basically like, well, say it's a decision that needs to be made.
Yeah.
Is that like, so
Yeah.
you have all these factors, and basically the step-by-step process that I could put myself through is it's written out by L. Ron Hubbard, and it's called the doubt formula. And you can go through it and basically, I mean, it's like an expansion of like a pros and cons list where you evaluate what are my intentions for this thing, and then what are the other intentions, and then did the intentions and actions of these two things match up?
I'm naturally not drawn to Scientology. How much of the critique have you considered?
So I want to go back and just replay that while I don't think that most of this interview aligns with what he just said, right? Dax, it's going to come in as a quick clip.
These two things match up?
I'm naturally not drawn to Scientology. How much of the critique have you consumed? Any of it?
No, because I don't think that it comes from an actual place of like your critiques of like, I don't think it comes from critical thinking.
Follow us on YouTube at Windy City Thetan Watch. We do live protests, studio panels, and curated videos.
All right, folks. So that was my fun little adventure into one of the ways that Dax Shepard seems to be, let's say, a defender of Scientology at the very least, right? And yet, Dax, I think that his wife was on Parenthood as well, right? Wasn't I think Kristen Bell was also. I'd never watched Parenthood. Yeah. Now, what's Geo? I know Osa. I don't know Geo. Folks, so what did you think about the video? How do we do in the conversation? Did I hit across some points? Does it? I want it to be somewhat effective that when people come across that, they'll realize that Guardian's office, thank you, the arguments that that the pro Scientologist makes are so weak and disconnected from reality in regards to what's going on. Any other questions, concerns? It's about 9 o'clock here in the Midwest. I'm sure we've got other folks out there. Let me see if we've got any channels. Thank you so much. Yeah. And I think you do a great job out there, and I love that you're participating in all the chat. But all of you that are in here tonight, I'm really pleased as punch that you show up on my channel and that you show up on so many other channels, and you participate. Right? You get involved in the conversation. And while not all of you are able to get out on the street, not all of you are able to maybe show a panel, you are in these channels listening to the conversation and listening to or supporting the people who are either out there streaming or doing panels. So go Pixel. And again, Jessica, thank you as well. I really appreciate that. All right, folks. I am going to give you a dealer's choice. I will say, yeah, I think that he's pretty close to Ashton as well. So I am not going to be surprised if the Diddy circle expands this far. I can't imagine that there's anybody really that's anybody in Hollywood that didn't fall into the Diddy throes. So, but yeah, Ashton. So Dax and Ashton are very, very similar to me, right? This idea that they are so Scientology adjacent in so many of their relationships. All right, folks, I am going to say, I appreciate that, Jessica. We've got Down the Rabbit Hole, Mental Health Matters to Us, and Nance Drew. So I'm going to go ahead and close the stream. I really appreciate everybody being here. And if you can, let's join one of those channels and let them know that Wendy sent you. Thank you all for your time. Please like, subscribe, leave comments. It'll be fun. Thank you, Desert Dog.
Welcome back to a Windy City Vatan Watch, the channel where truth meets freedom, right here in the heart of Chicago. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated with our latest investigations, interviews, and insights. Your support fuels our fight for freedom and truth. So, let's dive into today's journey, armed with knowledge and the relentless spirit of the Windy City.